All right, hello everyone. Today we're talking about faith. And guess why we are talking about faith? Because I was asking God, I'm a psychologist in my day job, so I learned a lot to be in my mind. But I was asking the Creator, because the Creator's mind is way bigger than mine, what to talk about today. Because today, anyway, now is the time for me to, I set aside time to record videos for us so we can keep going on this path of learning, of growing, of knowing, of understanding. And so I saw a book in my inner vision, in my mind. I have the Holy Spirit in me, so I trust that. And I got this knowing that was like, just go to page 55 of that book and you'll know what to talk about. And I'll show you the book. All right, I haven't even finished this book. I'm about this far in. But it's called Blessed and Unstoppable by Billy Alsbrooks. And guess what page 55 is? I don't want to show his work, but here's 55. And look at these quotes. It says success quotes, but it's all these quotes from people you can look up online. But Ralph Waldo Emerson, I'll just quote him from this book. All I have seen teaches me to trust the Creator for all I have not seen. And then he quotes Martin Luther King Jr. and Thomas Aquinas. And I like Blaise Pascal here. Listen to this quote. In faith, there is enough light for those who want to believe and enough shadow to blind those who don't. And I can always quote Jesus. He quoted, I don't remember which verse this is, but he says, because you have so little faith, truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. All right. And so I wonder, I think it's downstairs. I'm in my home office. And look who just joined me. Little Leia wanted to get on my laps. So I just said, why not? Right? I can have her sleeping here. Go ahead. She's not hung out with me all day. She's been here, but I've been working. And so let's understand what faith is. I was going to say, she's giving me kisses. I was going to say I have a piece of paper downstairs where I wrote this definition that I got from a guy named Devotions with DeMarcus. And it said, forward action in trusting him. And God is beyond him or her, so we could say her, but the Creator. I usually have a stand for this, so it's just a little bit, anyway. Forward action in trusting the Creator, all right? And trusting him, trusting your life to this bigger picture, this bigger story. Do you want on or off? And fear, remember, we've talked a lot about fear. If you're new here, welcome. I totally welcome you. Fear is false evidence appearing real, or people, when we go into our fear brain, forget everything and run. No, they talk about faith is the opposite of fear. They say, well, I mean, it's not just the opposite of fear, but face everything and rise. That's taking the same letters of fear, but turning them a different way. So in the Bible, it says, without faith, it's impossible to please God. And I'd love to look that up. I'm not going to look it up right now, because I bet there's an inner meaning to that. It's not like God needs us to please him. God is not a narcissist. All right, so what I've been reflecting on, what God has been working in me, and I trust that if God is working on something in me, then it's going to be a stage at some point of your life, or it has been in the past, so you can relate with this. And I keep getting the quote in my mind. I say it often, is Plato said, all learning is just remembering. And so if we came from God, if we came from divine love, then we have a memory of everything. Everything we learn is just remembering, oh, I knew that when I was part of God before he made me, I'll say he for now, right? Into a soul, into a human form, into here on this earth in a human body. All right. And so what God has been working on in me, and I'm sure for some of you that's why it showed up in your feed, you know, because the weird algorithms just find these words, and anyway, I won't go into however they're figuring out what we've been doing, what we've been thinking. I don't know how much they figure out, but it's really strange sometimes. I remember I was talking about like something really weird, like my garage door opener, and then I was talking about psychology stuff. But because someone had been searching for garage door openers, my video came up because it was in the transcript, and then they learned all this other stuff that they had been wanting to learn and asking God about. And so I just trust, I have faith that God can use the algorithms for good. All right, and so when we put our faith in external things, in people's perception of us, let's say, or how much money we have in our bank, or, you know, whether we feel like we look good today or we don't look good, or whether we just accomplish some great feat. What else do we look externally for? What did I accomplish today? What is my life purposeful? I mean, some of those questions are very important because you have an eternal purpose here. You are an eternal soul put in this physical body, and you're given this body, but it's also for yours to steward. Just like all money that comes to you is yours to steward. And it's just like, I was taught a long time ago, or a while ago, that when you give 10% back to the poor or to your church or back to God in some way, that represents you're giving that portion to God, that first fruit. Let's say Jesus is called the first fruit, but I welcome all people of all faiths. When you give that represents the whole. That 10% that's hard for you to give at the very beginning. Sometimes it's hard at first. Just like all fasting is hard. No one's like, oh, I can't wait to fast today. I can't wait to not eat and to not drink or whatever. I mean, yes, water, you know, but not drink your coffee or your tea or whatever else you're giving up with that, you know. So even there's a verse that says that no one likes discipline in the moment that you're getting it. It's who does. I did push-ups yesterday with my son, like guy push-ups. I did 50 of them, not in a row. I did like 25 first. And in my 25, I looked up and he had done 50 all the way, you know, just like I was going all the way, but I was like, I was amazed. And we haven't done push-ups together really. It was fun. It was fun because I got them out of the way. I really, there's something about staying disciplined in your disciplines and doing these small things. And, you know, it might seem small, like me making 3 videos a week, but now there's 1,700 plus videos out there just on YouTube. And then a lot of those went to Instagram, and some of them, different ones, went to the different platforms. I don't know what platforms are going to be out by the time you see this video. I do my best to make my videos timeless, so we have timeless understanding, something that's going to help us always, wherever we are, whatever the world looks like externally. So that's what I was going to talk about, or what I was talking about. When you keep deriving your worth and your sense of self and your understanding of yourself externally from, oh, people like me at church even, let's say, or at synagogue if you're Jewish, right? Or wherever, you know, they, and it's like, or people like me at the school that I go to, or people like me at my work. I mean, no, it's important to be charitable, to always be loving. I'm not sure if I finished that sentence, but the 10% represents the whole. And so you're giving all of who you are, all of your sustenance, all of the incoming finances back to God by giving away the 10%. And so when you do this, it looses its grip on you, and you start seeing from action. Okay, Jesus says you will. He says, when you do these things, then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. It's one thing for me to know, oh yeah, it'd be really great for me to, be more disciplined with my food and or with my exercise or do whatever. And it's like, but when you actually do that, then you experience how hard it is, or how easy it is, or how you can develop a new pattern or a new habit. And oh yeah, look at this quote that I have right here in front of me on my computer. On a post-it note on my computer. The degree that you are a slave to your appetites is the degree you will step over other people to fulfill them. Now, some people can say wonderful quotes just like I can say wonderful quotes, and then we have to be able to apply those quotes to our lives, because I might have been stepped on by that person that actually gave me that quote. It's still a wonderful quote, but I see now. But there's this saying, this like, but for the grace of God, there go I. Who knows how I have stepped on people in my life on accident, not on purpose, in order to I remember just the other day, maybe this was in the last month, I was like, I hadn't slept much and I hadn't eaten yet that day. And I was just like, hey, can you get me my food, to a waitress or something? I don't remember. Or was it a takeout place? And then I immediately caught myself and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I haven't eaten yet today. And it wasn't on purpose. It wasn't fasting. It wasn't trying to fast. It was just, and so, but you see how, and so I'm like, I don't have any excuse to be short with you. So I appreciate that you're getting my food when it's ready, like whatever. You don't always have to be super nice, but you want to always be charitable, which is always loving. Someone said the other day, they were quoting something else. They said, don't let truth outrun love. But we're talking about faith. Earlier, I was getting this quote by Rumi, Rumi. He's this Sufi poet from, I think, the 1300s. I can't remember. But he said something like, if you do all of these amazing things in the world, but you don't do this one thing, you'll be missing everything. And it's so funny because everyone's like, wait, you can't start that quote without finishing it. So I was like, well, maybe I'll start it. I can know that it has something to do with just like what Jesus said, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, this right way of walking in the truth, in love, in the virtues, which is courage, prudence, self-control, which is like temperance, to delay the immediate gratification for the greater good that's more remote. And there's one that starts with an R. It'll come to me. Oh, that's the same as virtues. Like I was just saying, it's righteousness, but it's justice as well. Understanding what is just. Like if I'm only after justice, but I don't have courage and I don't have prudence, which is to think through a thing, and I don't have temperance, and the three theological virtues are faith, hope, and love. If I don't have those in balance, then I can think I'm being just, but I'm missing some aspect of that equation. And so Jesus said, seek first the kingdom of God, and God is love, right? So you're seeking first this kingdom of divine love, of perfect love that comes from up here, and and his righteousness, and then all these other things will be added to you as well. All these other things, all right, that I always have a clue with that. My friend Elliot wrote a song and he sang it, you know, and he's passed away now. His name is Elliot Smith, and it goes, everything means nothing to me. And it goes up a scale, all right? And he says his lyrics aren't meant to be apart from the sound, the music. And so it's like this. And so if you think of everything is created out of this uncreated creator. It's hard for our minds. Our minds aren't going to be able to completely understand this, but you can have this concept of the uncreated, loving, divine love, self-existent one, the isness. Some people call it the absolute infinite beingness or be-ness, because it's more than even a being. But it's not just this force or blah, but it's hard for us to put into words. Just like we can't understand the nature of timelessness. If God is above time, so here's a timeline right here, and here's all these dots of how you're experiencing. I think Einstein's the one that said linear time is an illusion, but we experience, I was born here, and then this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and all these things happen. Well, God can see above time. The way C.S. Lewis describes it in Mere Christianity, he also describes the virtues in Mere Christianity. He describes a lot in that little book. But he says in that book about time, he says, if you imagine that you are, you know, it's like you are this person, Billy Osbrooks, that's writing this book. Well, let's just say he's writing a fiction story and he says, hey, Sally was knitting and then she put her knitting down on the couch because she heard a knock at the door. And then she walked over to the door, and so he puts his book down that he's writing. Now, Sally's not going to experience any time change. Like, the next sentence is going to say, then she opened the door and her friend Josh was there, or whatever, you know? And so there's no time gap in her story. But Billy, who's writing the story, can set down the book for as long as he wants, for a year if he wants, to think about what's Sally going to do? Who's Josh? Who's coming over now? What's going on in the story? What's developing? What's the arc of this character? Whatever he wants, Billy wants to think about when he's writing that book. So that helped me understand. I hope it helps you understand when you're praying, you know, there can be 7 billion people praying at once, but God is above time. And so it says, there's a clue in the scriptures that say, with God, a day is like 1,000 years, 1,000 years is like a day. And so what is that thing that Rumi was talking about? If you do all these other things, he said, I remember he was saying in that quote, he's saying, if you have, it's like if you have this golden sword or something that's like priceless, you know, let's say it's worth, I'll just make, I know it's like priceless, but let's say it's, someone would buy it from you, but you wouldn't want to sell it for like $1 billion, right? But instead of using the sword as it's meant to be used, or putting it on display, let's say at a museum, so hundreds of thousands of people can see it, or use it in some kind of play fighting, so people can see how it cuts and what it does and how exquisitely it was made, or whatever that sword is meant to be used. Instead, you have it on the wall and you're hanging a basket from it. And you say, see, I'm using this sword. This is what he was saying. He was comparing our life to that. Rumi was, and he had some insight about our life. It's like, if you have eternal purposes for being here and you are just not knowing that, you've been deceived into not knowing your eternal purposes. You've been caught up in just scrolling on your phone, or, you know, reading romance novels. I mean, I think reading is important, but you're just escaping here, instead of facing what are you trying to escape? That's one thing to have faith about, is forward action and trusting him. I just spent about an hour or so, I would say, before this, cleaning out my closet. And it was like I had all this stuff from a few months ago, okay? And so that's how long I've been making these videos. I've been consistent in other things. But why was I putting off? I had started cleaning it about a month ago, so 4 weeks ago or so, and I got all these bins. And so I had take everything out, all this stuff on the shelves to clean it out. It's not that big of a closet, but then I had to go somewhere that day and I just shoved everything in so it wouldn't mess up my room. But it's like then I couldn't get in my closet, and so it was like, you know what, just take the time. If it takes an hour, at least just spend this hour cleaning, even though there's all these other things I have to do today. But we're setting aside those things so we can concentrate on this. To concentrate on something is just like if you have a magnifying glass. Someone taught me this once. It's so cool. If you have the sun going through the magnifying glass, you can burn up like some kindling and start a fire. And fire is what would keep people warm and back in the old days, and cook their food, sterilize water. It does so many things. You can wash your clothes in boiling water and it cleans them out or whatever. And so a magnifying glass does that. All right. But if you just have the magnifying glass on a shelf, then you don't use that power. Well, when we're concentrating, when we're using our faculties to understand these things, where it's like we're taking the sunlight of God and that the divine thought that he gives us, he's beyond he and she, so that we can understand these things in a greater depth, and hopefully never forget them. They put seeds in us, at least, of deeper remembering and a deeper life. And so Jesus was talking mystically, and he's teaching something very important, or he wouldn't be saying it, because he didn't waste his words. Seek first this kingdom, how to be this king in this earth, but from the perspective of heaven. Seek first the kingdom of God and this righteousness, which is just the right way of being. Jesus is our righteousness, but he also teaches how to walk in love, how to walk where you're not enabling people and you're not letting people walk on you over here, and you're not totally isolating and burning, like just pushing everybody away over here. There's a way to walk where you're loving all people. But going back to Eliot's song, when you think of everything that's created, when you get to a place where you're not apathetic, but God is taking you through the wilderness, so you're detached. Everything means no thing to me. It means nothing. It means, like, if I have my identity in God, in what Christ did for me, he came to die for every single person, so no one's excluded this. For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever would believe in him, put their faith in him, will not perish but have everlasting life. Well, so that's the word Zoe. So you have this life that's being made in you. And I wish I had that verse right here. It is 1 Corinthians 15. I guess I could look at it on my computer, but I don't want to turn my computer on right now. My computer's right in front of me. But in that passage, it's talking about the mortal body turning into the immortal. And you have everything, it says everything has a certain kind of clothes. Like fish has a certain kind of body. Animals have this furry, like Leia's right here sleeping. She has a different kind of body. A butterfly has the caterpillar and then turns into the butterfly body. Well, what if we are like that? You are born with a mortal body, and you have this soul inside of you, but you're meant to have an immortal body. And there's something that's meant to happen while you're here. And I'm not going to just tell you what that is, because it's important that you discover this and you find this out. But I can leave you clues. Like Jesus already left us so many clues, but people don't stop and look mystically. I did a video, I think the last video that I put out was about, or I made it, I haven't even posted it yet, but it's like when you build your house, dig this deep foundation down to the rock. don't build your house on the sand. Don't live this superficial life where you're using this beautiful sword. You are a soul made in the image and likeness of God, that Jesus came down from heaven. Like, God left heaven to create this ladder to bring you up back to heaven, to reconcile you with a perfect God, and to teach you how to be made perfect so that you can yield to these higher things. And it's like, I was bringing up, and so you have this worth that's just so far beyond the limited understanding that you have internalized. If your parents yelled at you all the time, okay, or even did a lot kinder things than that, but still not as kind as God, God's identity of you is so much higher than what we internalize. If our parents internalize, hey, you're bugging me, I need to do my 3 jobs in order to make enough money for us to eat. And so nevertheless, so in the meantime, you get ignored, but you're getting fed and you have a roof over your head. Then you learn, I'm worth a roof over my head and someone having 3 jobs for me. And that might teach you a lot, but you're worth so much more than that. You're worth this God who can stop time to be present and hear your prayers. And just like it took me a month or 4 weeks or whatever, a month, probably about that, maybe 3, but still, regardless, 3 or 4 or 5, to set aside some time in what seems like my busy day to go, I'm going to clean my closet. Well, there are things in us, just old wounds, that might take us 10 minutes to feel and to cry, or to get angry about, and then let that pass through us. That we've been putting off for 20 years. You could have been putting off an apologizing to someone and taking responsibility, self-responsibility for the way you treated that person. For 6 years, you could have been waiting. I'm not saying this to any person specifically, no, but even with ourselves. Like, I had a good cry this morning, so that's why I can speak on this, right? Because when Jesus said, like he said, when you do these things, then you will know the truth, because you activated it in your doing, in the stepping out in faith. And then the truth will set you free. I got set free from whatever I have been shoving down and hiding. And maybe actually just having that cry. I was in my car, so it was a 30-minute drive. I cried for probably about 15 minutes, maybe 10 of the last 10 minutes. I just crying and crying and crying. And I saw my friend when I got to where I was going, and she was like, what are you crying about? I'm like, I don't know. And I really, I knew it was a lot of things, but I was letting myself feel. And I wasn't feeling sorry for myself. I was just, because you can activate what Eckhart Tolle calls the pain body, and just this victim mentality. And it wasn't like that. And sometimes we're afraid that we'll activate the victim mentality, when really we're just feeling a feeling. We're feeling old feelings that we're stuck in there, some old grief. When you actually look at the world and accept what is, sometimes that's disappointing, or whatever. You expected it to be something more. And so it's just like you have this grief and you cry about what is, and you accept it on a deeper level. And it helps you to try to control people less. You're not controlling yourself or controlling other people. That's different than self-control. When they use the word self-control, it's the word temperance. You can have discipline in your life and be disciplined. And sometimes, you know how they say, when you know better, you do better. When you know better, you actually are like, wait, I know now, because of what Dr. Cheryl said. And you don't have to use my name, doctor. It's just like what this person, this soul, this other soul reflected back to me in a mirror today, that I am worth eternal purposes, and I have eternal purposes for being here. And God put eternal, amazing God gifts in you. And it's yours to activate those. And when you activate those, it just turned 29. I don't know what that is, but it helps all the other people. See, I do this a lot. Like, we look like we're all separate beings, but we're all connected. And I'm being reminded of that movie, The Clash of the Titans. There was one out in the 80s that I'm thinking of. And Perseus was given, now this is mythology, okay? And so we're learning from the story in the myth. There's deep truths that are conveyed in archetypes. So he's an archetype of the hero's journey. And his mom actually was like a god, a god, small whatever, came down and anyway, he was born half god, half man. Now that's not the same as Christ, who was 100% God, 100% man. He's all God, all man. But we can look at this story like I have this picture right here, and a monk taught me. This monk at a very important monastery taught me, when Jesus is holding this, he's talking about your divine nature and your human nature, and this is the Trinity, right? And so anyway, Perseus had to learn how he had this owl that would answer questions, wise questions, or help him out. I don't know, he would go help him out, get stuff. He had this shield where he could look in it, and he ended up using it to defeat Medusa, the woman with the lots of snake hair, right, that would turn people into stone. He looked in the reflection of the shield. So he didn't use the shield the normal way, but anyway, and he used a sword. And so and he had special boots, I think, that could make him fly, that would help him get the Pegasus flying horse, or I can't remember what all he had, but it's just like that. It really is like that. It's just like I've learned to play the guitar, even though I had a guitar since 1998, and I didn't learn it until late in the middle 2000s or later than that. I can't remember the years right now, but less than 10 years ago from this place. But now I teach people psychology and spiritual truths through pop songs. And so if I hadn't listened to my inner knowing, that was like, well, it was sort of like out of necessity. Sometimes necessity is what they say, inventions are created out of necessity, but because I didn't have the rights to these songs for other people, but I can sing them on some of these platforms, and they give you the freedom to do that. But if I didn't practice guitar for the past 8 years plus, and if I didn't callous my fingers and learn songs, and now I'm taking singing lessons, then it's like it just, I wouldn't, even if I started where I was, if I didn't do that, then that method wouldn't be out here. And I'm just one person, right? You might be an artist, or really organized, or really social, and know how to get social events together, or, understand things mathematically, or whatever. I don't know your gifts, but we're meant to step out in faith. That's forward action and trusting him, and forward action internally as well. That means do the inner work. And that might have freed me up to actually just clean my closet so that I have a cleaner space, so that I can think more open thoughts, or be more expansive in my heart, how I live, or whatever. And so there are these little things that you do that they really do change the whole world. Anyway, I wish you so much love. Thanks for being here. I hope you grew in faith in this and your understanding of faith.